Yesterday, New York Times website was hacked, down for quite some time. I've asked my good friend Kevin Richards to join me. He's with Ventura Web Design, and by way of disclosure, he designed my website, alanstock.com, where there's a poll up right now about the U.S. getting involved in the Syrian war. You can take that poll and be part of that poll as well. And we'll talk about that a little later on in the show about Syria. But right now, Kevin, I appreciate you being with me.
Hey, Alan, how are you today?
I am doing absolutely great. We haven't got a lot of time, so let me ask you. Yesterday, New York Times website hacked, down for quite some time. What can you tell us about this?
It's pretty big news. It was down for over 20 hours, and it's actually a group called the Syrian Electronic Army that is taking credit for the hacking. And this is a group that claims to be loyal to the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, and they've actually been behind quite a few other attacks on media outlets such as the Financial Times, Washington Post, NPR, and more. So what they did is they did what's called a phishing attack, and it's actually specifically a spearfishing attack where they went after a specific group that allowed them to get access to that New York Times website and actually bring it down for, like we said, 20 hours.
So why so long for something like this? I mean, that's a long time to have a website down, especially with something like the New York Times.
This was a unique type of attack. It's called a domain name service attack. And what that means is the domain name itself was taken out of service. And that is accomplished by going to the registrar of the domain. The way the Internet works is it's actually all a bunch of series of numbers. So every website is actually a numerical address. The domain name that we type in, such as yahoo.com or
right.
alanstock.com, that's just something that's easy for us to remember. And servers throughout the world acknowledge that when you type in yahoo.com, you want to go directly to their servers, the numerical servers. So what happened was they got access to the domain name registrar, they changed where that traffic was going to be pointed to, and it actually takes quite a long time to get all of that information pointed back to the correct address.
So that's how do they get into the systems itself, though?
Well, what they did is something that's called spearfishing, and it's fishing with a PH instead of an F. And basically what that means is they're fishing for information. And you've gotten tons of email, just like everybody else in the world has, asking you to log into your bank account or log into your PayPal account and click on this address. And those are all fake emails. And obviously this particular email, it was targeted at a specific individual that was able to gain access to this domain name registrar, and it's through that mistake that somebody made that allowed the New York Times to be taken down.
So you said they redirected it. Where did they redirect it to?
They directed it to their own servers. So the content that was being displayed was from the group that took them down.
All right. So the big question is, how does a company avoid this kind of hacking? And any company at all?
Well, you've got to really stay on top of updating your software. You've got to have the latest version, whether you're on Mac or whether you're on PC. You've got to have the latest version because the longer the software is out, the longer the hackers have time to find ways to compromise it. You've got to make sure that your actual Internet browsers are up to date. You can't be using a 5-year-old, version of Internet Explorer. You've got to have, new hardware. You need to especially have antivirus software in place. And if you're a website owner, you need to be doing what's called a registry lock. You need to make it so this registration for your domain name can't just be changed on the fly.
All right. I understand that it's a lot easier to protect yourself with Macs than it is with PCs. Is that true?
It is true. It's becoming less of the case now because Macs are so popular. The hackers are finding that writing code to attack a Mac is becoming a profitable thing to do as well. But
I understand that they change their codes and everything like that on a more frequent basis.
Well, they do. Mac does do updates to their code more regularly, and they don't typically allow the old coding to sit around. So that is one of the techniques they use to minimize this.
All right, so it is better. I just got a Mac, as you know.
I know, so, you're a Mac guy.
Well, now I am, for the last couple of months, and I absolutely love it, and I feel like it's a little bit, little more, little safer at this point. All right, so update your antivirus issues regardless of what you've got, and make sure your hardware and your software, rather, is always up to date, as opposed to like 5-year-old stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. Don't be stagnant. Stay one step ahead. And of course, one thing I didn't mention is make sure you have a password that is not easy to hack. Make sure that you have multiple words that don't just come from the dictionary. Make sure you've got numbers, maybe even a symbol. And if your particular website allows for it, have uppercase and lowercase. It just makes it that much harder for somebody to hack in and break into your password.
All right, Kevin Richards, Ventura Web Design. I want to thank you very much for joining. You can find out more about Ventura Web Design. Go to allenstock.com. It's on the right-hand side of the page. Click onto that symbol there, and you can find out more about it. And also take the daily poll, which is whether or not the United States should get involved in the Syrian civil war. Kevin, thank you so much for being with us. I do appreciate it.